Hi, welcome to EQD Research Global Insights for Friday, June 18th. Today we're going to talk a little bit more about VIX and day of the week price action. I'm going to stretch into the futures with that as well. But before I get to that, we're going to take a look at a couple of trades in the VIX complex, focusing in on July expiration. So as the day gets going here mid-morning, S&P 500's down 0.9%. VIX is up $1.75 to 1950. Everything in the curve is above 20. You can see a big bump in the curve for January and February. Now, we normally see that relative to December. December's got a little bit of a holiday effect that dampens the December futures. But when you look at January and February versus the rest of the curve, looks like there's some concerns going into 2022, at least heightened volatility expectations going into 2022. That'll be a part of the curve to keep an eye on for some time. Now, as I mentioned, a couple of big trades today to talk about. Big seller of over 27,000 of the July 17 puts at 80 cents. This happened with VIX at 1958 and the July future at 2050. Not sure if this trade was an open or a close. There's pretty big open interest on the July 17 puts. So really can't nail down if somebody was getting into or getting out of a trade. And then kind of a bearish trade with an interesting strike price relative to where VIX and the futures are right now. Somebody sold the July 2022 call spread for 51 cents, and this was with VIX at 1958 below the short strike and the July future at 2030 above the short strike. Definitely looking for VIX to settle in below 20 for July expiration on that trade. Now, turning to the day of the week information, I got a lot of emails after posting a video about the 3-day weekend effect on VIX and the VIX futures. I don't have any data for a really comprehensive intraday study, and that's what people were asking. When does the drift happen? Does it happen about midday? And I'm still trying to dig up the data and expand on that. But what I did do was I looked at where VIX and the front month VIX future and the second month VIX future, where do they close relative to their day's range? Based on the day of the week. In this first table, this is spot VIX relative to the daily range. And what I did was I quartiled up the day's range. So this table, 19% of the time, VIX closes in the top 25% of the price action of the day. 40% of the time, it closes in the bottom 25% of the day. And really of note on this table is that it happens more frequently on Monday and Fridays. I'm a little surprised at the Monday number, not surprised at the Friday number, just due to that weekend effect that I've talked about before. Now, taking a look at the front month VIX future, and it actually closes toward the end of the range on Fridays and pretty consistently toward the end of the range on Fridays. In fact, the only day of the week where we're not in the bottom quartile for the front month future more than 40% or more of the time is actually Wednesday. The rest of the time, and as we get toward the end of the week, more likely to close at the end of the range. Taking a look, switching over to the second month VIX future, pretty consistent 36% number there on Friday, with the bottom quartile on Fridays. Actually at the top quartile a little bit more than the front month future as well. But just a lot of people like to trade the front month versus the second month future, even on an intraday basis. So I wanted to include the second month here. After I ran all these numbers, I decided, why don't I go look at the S&P 500 and see if the S&P 500 has a similar pattern? And it does, and it is kind of opposite. Instead of looking at the bottom quartile, look at the top quartile there. 37% of the time, the S&P 500 actually closes at the top quartile of the day's range. I found that kind of surprising, and it also trends higher toward the end of the week. You are more likely to close, at the top quartile of the day's range with the S&P 500 on a Thursday or a Friday. The longer we go into the week, the more likely we are to close at the top end. But again, I'm going to do more work on trying to figure out, is there a time in the day where VIX maybe starts to trend lower and starts to take into account the weekend impact? So So with that, thanks for joining me for EQD Research Global Insights for June 18th. As always, if you made it this far, you got to hit that like button. Appreciate you watching. If you have not subscribed yet, please do. I'm always open to comments in the space below. And if you've got something a little bit more extensive you'd like me to look into, like the day of the week stuff today, feel free to send me an email at roads@eqderivatives.com.